Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of Check Your Minimap podcast. I'm your host, Threshold Breaker, but you can call me THB, and I'm joined by Ansem.
Hey guys.
Unfortunately, Blackout could not make it for this podcast. Today we'll be talking about a few topics related to Battlefield Hardline. Game modes and dedicated player counts, new levels and your favorite experience so far, one thing we would change about Hardline since we've played it, and the melee system from Battlefield 4 to the new one we're experiencing now in Battlefield Hardline. Let's get the ball rolling in game modes and dedicated player counts. First one that I'm going to kind of get into here is blood money. For those of you who don't know what blood money is, there's a central money pile that players can steal from directly. The more friendly players that are on the money pile, the quicker the money gets looted. As an alternative, your team can break into the enemy vault and take their money. In the end, whoever meets the money limit or has the most money in their vault by the end of the round wins the match. Now, some of the game modes that I saw versus what Battlefield was giving were, the stock sizes were 10, 24, 32, and 64, but some of the game modes that I saw were 8, 14, 16, 32, 48, 64. Like, they were all across the board. I don't know if you saw that, Ansem.
I did. I'm not sure if that's just because of the whole spectator stuff and all that, the extra slots you have to have, but it's really, I find it kind of interesting, because 64-man blood money gets kind of super crazy.
Yeah, but it's fun, though. I mean, one of my personal experiences was, on Bank Job, right? We're going in with the teammates. We're going to the central money pile, which is in front of the vault. I have gas grenades, a shotgun, a riot shield, and we're just, chucking gas grenades and clearing the central money pile. And I go and I storm the area, and I shotgun, 3 or 4 people. And then, my team, because, like I said, you loot money faster when you're on the central money pile with a group of people. It's just that's a great experience, in my personal opinion. And then, you just dart back to your vault to go drop off your money.
I really like that they added in a system that basically promotes team play. Because when you and your buddy are pulling at the same time, you pull twice as much. When you get a third buddy in, you half that time again, and then so on and so forth until it's almost instantaneous. I know that the hacker can also boost you, but really it's all about getting those 5-man teams in there all looting at one time so that you get your 10 stacks of money just instantly, basically.
Yeah, it's a great mechanic that they added. It promotes team gameplay, and that's really what Battlefield is about, or, what I like to think it's about.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know that it gets a little, people say it gets TDM-y. You just go in there and throw gas grenades and shotgun everybody, but that's just the community. The game's actually really got some great mechanics for team play. I was playing in Crosshair the other day, and you have the VIP, his 4 extra people that help him try to get to the extraction point, and then you have the 5 criminals who are trying to kill him. And you can unlock power weapons, LMG, RPG. RPG actually took me by surprise. I did not expect them to get an RPG. But you can get these power weapons, and if you're communicating with your team, you can be like, hey, let's go pick up this LMG so that you can give extra suppressive fire, and maybe a sniper can pick them off. I was actually in one round where I was the VIP, and it was me and one guy against 4 other people. And because I was able to communicate with my person to basically draw fire, I could step around the corner with an LMG and light the place up. It was pretty intense because you only have 1 life to live in that game mode.
But you can be revived, from my understanding as well, right?
Yes, you get 1 revive, though.
Oh, okay, so they limited it, that's smart. I like that.
Yeah. If you get downed and you happen to have a medic nearby, he can revive you. The VIP has the survivalist pin, which allows that if he's blown up by grenades or something like that, he gets that 1 quick epi in his arm and he's hopping back up. So you really do have to actually shoot him to make sure he's down, or make sure any teammates can't revive him. That's the only thing that you can't do. I think that they should put it in that you have that until the defib timer runs out, that the game should continue, because, somebody gets that lucky shot or something like that, you could revive him. But they don't have it right now. As long as you are not the VIP, you can be revived once. If you're the VIP and you're taken out by some sort of explosive, you can use the survivalist pin to get yourself back up.
Oh, that's an interesting mechanic. I like the way in which it was thought out.
The only time I've seen the VIP use the survivalist pin was I had one VIP that I was trying to escort. He picked up the RPG and accidentally shot it into a wall next to himself and was able to pick himself back up.
That might have been glitched.
No, he just accidentally pulled the trigger when he didn't mean to.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Okay, so the next topic I want to get into is, and now that we just covered Crosshair, is Hotwire. for those of you who don't really know what Hotwire is, it's pretty much everyone's favorite game to exploit, right? For the most part, for points.
Well,
And
that would be the RPG glitch and the other fun things that is. And I know that people really love it because they love using that gearhead boost while driving the car.
well, yeah, I mean that's a great boost. But what I was kind of hinting at was if you're on downtown, and I'm guilty of doing it. You basically go to the top level of the parking garage in downtown, and you just do circles.
Okay, so you're talking about exploiting like a small area to do circles with your car and stay protected. I've been guilty of it. I do the block where the first building, it's where you have the criminals' money pile and blood money. You go up over the overpass. Well, instead of going up over the overpass, I make a right hop off. I continue to do my circle right over there, which is on our side, so I don't have to worry about getting, RPG'd, pro-piped, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Pro-piped. That's a new one.
Oh, man. The M320 grenade launcher is the only one you can carry, so we got to give it a new name. We had the
noob tube, now it's the pro-pipe. You heard it here first, guys. The pro-pipe. So, I mean, for those of you guys who don't know, Hotwire can take place on the Everglades, Riptide, downtown like we both discussed, Derail, and Dust Bowl. So my opinion on this is traditional cops and robbers like police chase. The criminal's objective is to steal the group of vehicles, and the cops are trying to repossess them. The goal here is to deplete the opposing team's respawn tickets. Also, if the vehicle happens to be destroyed, it will respawn in the point of origin that it was originally found. Typically, the game is played with 500 tickets on each team, and the team that depletes those tickets the fastest or has the most tickets by the end of the round wins. And the rounds are roughly 20 minutes. Now, what was interesting to me is, this is a popular game mode, despite its obvious problems. There's, from what I've been seeing, there's 8, 10, 12, 14, 18, 30, 32, 34, 40, 42, 44, 48, 64. Game sizes. So it's across the board.
Yeah, everybody just wants to play it and they don't really care how. I know that some like to play it in a more strategic, and I know that that's the ones that have a lot less people in them. But I have to say, when you go 64-man in Hotwire, it gets crazy. Just absolutely ridiculous.
We'll probably touch on this a little bit later in the show, but to me, that is an issue with Hardline as it stands now. Is the player counts. We can talk about it in a little bit, but yeah, like you're saying, 64-man, I don't think it was designed for 64-man.
Well, I agree with this, and we've talked about this before. We both agree that maybe 64 is a little much, especially with Hardline and the short TKTK, but I also think it's because of some of the exploits that we have such issues. Because it really comes down to how you play it. I mean, I've had great drivers, I've had bad drivers. I mean, they hit everything on the block, including the wall. They just can't drive. Yeah. Others drive all the way into enemy territory and basically drive into their spawn to get RPG'd, I swear. I mean, it's a great game mode.
It is a great game mode. I mean, there's a certain time where it becomes overkill. So, my personal experience, and I know you probably have one too, there was an instance where I was getting up around 7,000 points, in one of the marked vehicles, and after a little bit of time passes, I was doing a few laps in downtown. Around my fourth lap around running the same area, I managed to avoid some RPGs on, several times in the catwalk that connects the parking garage structure to the plaza space. As you were talking about before, as you went closer to the police spawn or the enemy spawn, I got nailed with a breaching charge by an oncoming car. So, I couldn't even be mad at that. That actually takes skill to do.
Wait, they threw a breaching charge onto your car or near enough to your car when they detonated that it killed you from a moving vehicle?
Yeah. They were
legit.
That was legit. It was it grazed me. So, their enemy car grazed me. So
that's straight up legit. I mean, you can't be mad at that. You just have to be clap, clap, bravo.
Yeah, instead of it being laid in the street, sometimes it is.
Well, that one we're going to have to blame on how the community plays the game, because, I've already watched a couple of cars laden with breaching charges get rammed into point cars and exploded. It's a community thing.
Well, the ramming thing in Hotwire is somewhat... It's not as bad, right? Because they give you the delay with the RPG so that somebody couldn't just throw their car into your marked vehicle and then instantaneously blow you up as soon as they popped out, and you have no way of reacting whatsoever. I don't know if that's the same if somebody throws breaching charges on their car and then ghosts the vehicle into you. I don't know if
there's a
there's
trigger delay on the breaching charges like they had on the C4 in the Battlefield 4.
okay.
So there is that quick second, but if they T-bone you or something like that, and they don't hit you directly in front of you, you may not really know what's going on until it's too late. Because I watched the last time I've seen it was a guy managed to ghost it properly to basically T-bone this car as he came around the corner and just blew everything up.
Really?
Yeah. The timing was spectacular. Like, I was just looking at it going, holy crap, you managed to time that right. Jesus. That was beautiful.
So what's one of your, if you have any, what was one of your experiences in like playing Hotwire? Was there any like epic moment that you've had so far?
I would have to say that the most epic moment I have had in Hotwire was probably on Everglades, and some people decided to get together and basically skywalk my punk car without telling me they were going to do it on the there's the overpass bridge that has the two little jumps over the downed trailer truck. They had laid it's breaching charges in Hardline. They had laid breaching charges all over the jump, and I didn't notice it until I was in the middle of jumping, and they decided to detonate it and throw me through the roof of the map. That was pretty darn entertaining.
That's pretty interesting.
I mean, I came down so hard that I exploded the car, but I mean, it was hysterical because I was just driving along. And if I hadn't, I mean, I'm assuming that I would have ran into the couple of cars, which looked like it was the armored SUV. I know there's a helicopter over there. I mean, I would have ran into these guys most likely, and they would have, fired something or another at me and possibly killed me. So I was like, all right, I was going to die either way, and this is a really entertaining way to die, so I'm not mad.
It's pretty funny, actually. So the next game mode we're going to get into is Heist. So what is Heist? We talked about this a little bit before in the previous podcasts. Heist is the criminals must breach the vault or some other maps. It's an armored vehicle and steal the money that's inside. There are 2 packages that the criminals can steal at any point in time and can be run at the same time to the extraction points. That's actually like a critical point. Like I don't think people understand that you can run multiple packages at once to different drop-off points. So in the game mode, the cops have an unlimited amount of tickets, right? Where the criminals only have 100 by default or 150 I've seen. Also, the criminals are working against a time limit. Now, the criminals get some things stacked in their favor, like starting closer to the money packages, which gives them the proper amount of time to set up the breaching charges or drills. To counter that, these items are set on 45-second timers to allow the cops to have a chance to disarm or defend the money packages. If the criminals happen to be taken down while in the possession of the package, the cops can sit on the package, usually from cover, and return the package in a couple of seconds. I think it's like 10, 15 seconds, somewhere in there. The package there, and then the package finally returns to the point of origin, and you start the process all over again. Now, I keep talking about the game modes, but I'm kind of astonished by like the amount of variety for like you have the 8-person, the 8-person server, the 14, the 16, the 22, the 26, 30, 40, 42, 48, 62, and 64. And the stock sizes that, Visceral gives in DICE is 10, 24, 32, and 64.
I know that with the 64-man, they have the issue that is you cannot win with 64-man Heist.
Supposedly, it's not supported, right? That's the word on the street, right?
Yeah, I know that many, many people run into this issue on the 64-man, and for the most part, I do not see any 64-man servers being run anymore now that it's such a wide-known fact that most of the time on 64-man server Heist game modes, if you manage to get both the packages gone, you're going to be sitting around waiting for that timer to run out or your tickets to run out, and you're going to lose because the game just doesn't end.
Which is unfortunate, because you probably stomped the team, and you're like, oh great, now I just have to lose. That's awesome.
Yeah, I played on one, and we did we got it done in 4 minutes, and it's like, okay, now we get to wait 10 more. Screw this, I'm leaving.
It's pretty good.
I mean, yeah, I wanted to stick around. I wanted to finish the match and all that stuff, but after seeing the fact that it was going to run until the countdown timer ran out or the tickets ran out, I know this already. So when I saw it happening on my server, I was just like, you know what? No. I'm just never going to join another 64-man heist because I don't want to run into that. I want to be able to win if I win. I don't want to have to forfeit my win just because I picked the wrong server to join.
Well, this comes back to the issue of player count again, right? I mean, we talked about this. You even showed me a straw poll, and the results were they were close, but ultimately 32 men was the magic number for people, at least for Hardline.
I know that a lot of people like that because 32 man's what everybody wants because it's so balanced. It allows there to actually be, a little bit of skill involved because with 64 man, especially on the small ones, 64 man on the block, you're never going to make it anywhere. There's just so many bodies in such a small place that you can't get away with things like you can if you only have 32 people on it.
Well, we can get into cancer-related maps later in the show, but I have an experience on the block, which I thought was pretty freaking epic. So one of the things, it so far is one of my favorite experiences in BF Hardline. It's towards the end of the match on the block. The game, the time's ticking down. We've already got one of the packages extracted. My team starts to push the left, like the left lane on the block.
Yeah, you're moving just past that large delivery truck.
Yep, that's where we're going. We're pushing the left lane of the map. Of course, we're taking, heat from the enemy team. So what happens is Dex was insane, right? We're by the foreclosed house. I'm defending my teammate that's pushing up with the package. Out comes about 5 enemies. I don't know what happened. The planets must have aligned or something like that because I just started laying waste to them as my teammate had enough time to get the package to the drop point. You're in a hail of gunfire. It's just so epic. And I had explosions going on that would make Michael Bay jealous.
Oh yeah, I've been on the block and your screen starts seriously shaking some days, especially if they're dropping one of the towers or you just happen to have 5 grenades going off next to you at the same time.
Well, I hope that they reduce that. I really hope they reduce the screen shake because it's a little overkill when buildings are coming down.
Yeah, I've played 24-man Heist on the block, and that stuff's fun. I really tried to avoid the 64-man just because I know it's crazy. I mean, I played 64-man Conquest Large on the block. I've played many of the large game modes on the block, and it is just crazy because every time you turn around, there's a group of enemies to take on. And I enjoyed that. I really do, but it just doesn't fit with tactical gameplay.
Right. And speaking of tactical gameplay, let me turn into the next subject. Let's go into the stuff, man, that you were playing mostly, which was Crosshair, Rescue, and TDM, Conquest, Large, and Small.
Bring up All right, let's cover TDM real quick, guys. TDM's broke. TDM is broke. That stuff's so broke, it's not even funny. And it's not their fault.
It's their fault.
Okay, it is their fault.
They
didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was going to be. From my understanding, quote me, that's fine. This is my understanding. My understanding from talking to all of the people in the community and so forth is that the spawn system in Battlefield Hardline is different from Battlefield 4 because it does not have the safe spawn mechanic, meaning that if you are near an enemy, it negates that spawn and moves you to the next spawn location and tries to find you one where you don't have enemies surrounding you. They just have a random number generator that kicks you out in a certain spot. So in TDM,
that's for sure.
On especially small servers, you get spawned in front of 5 guys that don't like you, so you get shot. So yeah, TDM spawn's a little broke. Other than that, when you get on a good tear and you're actually moving around the map and you're actually playing the game mode as it's supposed to be, and the spawns aren't just destroying your ability to play this game, it can be very fun. Some maps are a little weird. Riptide, the main building's basically completely and utterly deserted most days, except for a couple camping snipers.
I just want to stop you for a real quick second. And you can probably speak to this more, and you were getting into it. But how many? And I just thought of this now. How many TDM maps? There's a centralized building, and you just good luck if you're running the outside lanes. If you get what I'm saying. A lot of the maps
are set up that way. Hollywood Heights. Not the Everglades. The Everglades are a little bit better.
Well, you still have a centralized building in the Everglades, and you're just running around on the outskirts, which is a high point, equal roughly with some of the building windows.
Yes. So, I mean, but it's all the maps, especially at the spawn, the way it works. You're basically TDM now is currently you run the outer ring where all the spawns are because that's where you're going to find everybody who's not necessarily looking your direction because they just spawned in and you're going to shoot them in the back. Yeah. The central buildings are completely and utterly forgotten about. If the spawns were set up like Battlefield 4 where it's considered basically the safe spawn, and the way they did that is you spawn on one side or the other. That's how they did that. You spawn on the left or you spawn on the right. When the enemies get too close to you, your spawns flip and now you're spawning on the right instead of the left. Or if that was how it was, then you would have the central building again. But they're not. They're an outer ring around this building. You're supposed to run towards the building and fight in there. Just we don't. Because when a lot of the buildings that have a centralized building, like Riptide, to get to the central building from the outer ring of spawns, you have to travel 20 meters in open field, basically, which basically means that you might as well put a big giant target on your face because you're never going to get to the building. Somebody's going to mow you down from inside the building or on the outer ring.
No, I completely agree with that.
But let's get on something not quite so broke. And I mean, they did straw polls on it. They're getting it all figured out. They are doing stuff. Let's go back to something a little bit less broke. Let's go with Rescue. Rescue's a kind of fun game mode, and the reason I'm picking Rescue is because it turns very TDM very quickly. Rescue, you are trying to save 2 hostages that have been taken by the 5 criminals. So it's 5v5. And you can pick, do you want to go after hostage 1 or hostage 2? If you can save 1 and get it to the extraction point, you win. If you call it the criminals, you win. If all of the cops are killed, you lose. So this is the problem. As soon as you touch a hostage, it alerts not only all of your team that there's a cop trying to release the hostage, but it also alerts all of the criminals that cops are touching one of the hostage. So very quickly, all the cops or all the criminals descend on whichever cop or hostage it's screwing with because it begins to blink and they know exactly which one it is. So the most effective, quick, easy way to win this game mode is to take out the other side. So it turns very quickly into TDM. Yes, you get that one cop and that one criminal left, and then it becomes go ahead and start messing with the hostages, use them as bait, just go ahead and untie them completely and run for your life. I mean, that's where it comes in, but at the very beginning, I've noticed that most rounds very close to TDM because it's basically just take out as many people as you can and hope that you've done enough damage to the enemy team to render them unable to prevent you from winning the game.
That's a little, weak in my opinion that you're gonna highlight the person who's taking the hostage. I mean, from a competitive standpoint, that doesn't really sounds like too easy. Shouldn't you have somebody stationed if you're the criminals and you're trying to keep the hostages and stuff like that? Shouldn't you have somebody who's stationed in that area so that they can report back to their teammates and say, "Hey, I got taken out. There's a police officer taking the hostages out of the building. Go to that building and make sure that he doesn't make it out." Versus like an alert system. That's kind of...
I completely agree. I completely agree with you saying. I do believe that it was basically them going ahead and being like, let's not make this too difficult because we're expecting, and I don't mean to use this word, but it's basically perfectly accurate. Let's make it easy for the pub players to play competitive. That's how I kind of view that particular mechanic. But if you should have somebody watching each hostage. One guy on one hostage, one guy on the other one, and the other 3 should be roaming around trying to prevent them from getting anywhere near the hostage.
That dismisses the idea of personal strategy and caters to the idea of planned strategy and dictated gameplay. If that, you get what I'm saying when I'm saying that?
No, let's go ahead and explain because I'm not completely getting it and I'm not sure that all the listeners are right.
Okay, so basically because you have to play that game mode in that way, you're not really coming up with new strategies. You don't have to come up with new strategies. You just said it. You play that game mode as if it was TDM. You have one strategy to eliminate the enemy team. How you do it is not necessarily a strategy because it's already been predetermined that you're going to go out and you're going to go kill the enemy team instead of strategically positioning people to defend the hostages or take the hostages.
This is very true, and I completely agree with what you're saying. I think that the reason that this mentality is so ingrained in all the games, at least I've played, let me just say that one. In all of the games that I have ever played, it has become TDM. So I know that there's people out there like, no, I play it for the real stuff. I play it for the real stuff too. And I've had a couple of teams, but I'm going to tell you 95% of it turns into TDM. Go kill the other team, don't worry about the hostages. And it's not just because as soon as you touch the hostage, the entire enemy team knows which hostage you're standing next to and knows to throw grenades, because the hostages don't have health and killing them is not possible. But it's also because this is a competitive game mode that has a 3-minute timer on it. Yes, you can do a lot in 3 minutes, but if you screw around even a little bit, your timer will run out.
Does that even give you enough time to... You'd have to go in with a planned strategy. Like, say you're playing competitive, you'd have to go in with previously planned strategies. And, I mean, obviously, if you're that hardcore of a gamer, you would have those things in mind. Like, if you're part of a team, you're part of a group. Of course, you would have, like, specific strategies that you could call out for with your teammates, just like any team would.
Yeah, I mean, if you already have a predetermined plan, then that's great. But if you join into a random game and you're just like, crap, what do we do, guys? You don't have time. Because the other team, if they are coordinated, or even if they're not, they just know they need to come and kill all the cops. There's no time to strategize. You get a little bit of time at the beginning. You have that initial, 5-second wait time. But that can get negated by a current glitch that they're going to be hopefully taking care of. But I think that it's going to evolve. Hopefully they'll take some things out. I know that there is such a thing as 32-man rescue and Crosshair, which has a crazy amount of craziness to it because there's 32 people in total on the map, and there's no timer during that one. You have to have a private server for that one. You have to rent a server and set it up that way. And that one sounds crazy.
I'm sure it'll be molded for the better. I'm sure it will be.
Well, yes, we have a brand new game, and we are critiquing this thing pretty hard, but that's what it is. If they don't know what we like, what we think, then they don't know what they need to fix. So I think they need to fix those things. Think that there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. Things like Conquest Large and Conquest Small. These two game modes overlap completely. There is no difference, basically. They're on all the same maps. The only difference is 32 or 64 man. You want to play 32 man on the block? Go get Conquest. Well, it's regular Conquest in Hardline. Conquest Small is what it was called in Battlefield 4. So Conquest in Hardline, the block. 32 man. Conquest Large on the block. 64 man. That's only got 3 points. It doesn't change. You go to Dust Bowl and you do Conquest Large, you get all the points. But if you do regular Conquest, you only get 3 of them, ABC. And while that's great and everything, they still play the same. Doesn't matter how many people you have, they always play the same. It's just whether or not you basically have a couple more capture points to grab or not.
Right, it gives a little bit more wiggle room instead of getting all capped. I mean, that still happens on Conquest Large. You can still get all capped easily on Conquest Large, but I feel like you have a little bit more mobility as a team that may be down and out to go get your gimme point while some lone wolf guy ran off and got the furthest point towards the enemy team's base while they were distracted at the center point of the map.
Yeah, it does allow for a little bit of wiggle room, but with the reduced player count, I think that also gives you a lot of wiggle room to play on. It really just depends on the map, because when you put 64-man on the block, that's not anything compared to 64-man on Dust Bowl, where if you put 32-man on the block and 32-man on Dust Bowl, they play completely different.
That's a valid point. Did you want to get into? We talked on Crosshair a little bit. Did you have anything really further to add on Crosshair, or?
Not really. I mean, there's some great things. There's kind of also some buggy stuff. I know that I really just kind of skimmed over it, but that's because I don't find that there's all that much wrong with Crosshair per se. They buffed
except taking the VIP and sprinting him to the. How do you have an extraction point that has no timer on it for a game mode that's centered around extracting somebody? That blows my mind. I'm sorry.
Well, it's like a 3-second timer, but 3 seconds is nothing.
You can't shoot somebody in 3 seconds.
No, I think the only thing you can manage to do is pretty much throw a grenade and hope to God it blows up in time.
Travel time. Think about that.
That's what I'm saying. You have to have somebody on those points. And I understand that that's basically going ahead and being like, well, then you should have somebody. You should have one person dedicated to each point. And I get that, but all he's got to do is make it. Yeah. Everglades, you spawn in, you go left. You go all the way around the ring. There's a big giant dust cloud that obscures you, and you run all the way in. have the rest of your team go right and make as much noise as possible to draw as many as they can. Maybe one sniper to really look over the a vantage point to see where you're going. The entire time you're booking it to that extraction point, it's about 8 seconds to 10 seconds and the game's over.
It's unbelievable. They need to work it out a little bit better. I've seen some videos so far, like you were saying. Your group goes right, and naturally the VIP runs faster because he has a pistol. Correct?
Yes, he automatically has a pistol, so he does run faster. He also has a custom gold knife, which is pretty badass.
I got a custom gold knife yesterday for playing the hacker. The gold boot.
Nice. Yes, he runs faster. He has, flak jacket on. He's got 3 perks. Flak jacket, survivalist, and quick unspot is his 3 perks that he has auto-locked. These are not kill a guy and select that perk. They are automatically on him. He has the survivalist pin, which allows him to be blown up and revive himself. He has the bald eagle, which is a pretty intense handgun, and gold, which is really cool. He's got a knife, so he's not going to be doing any non-lethal takedowns. He's just going to stab people. And he has access to LMGs, RPGs, and he can actually pick those up, which I don't know about that one. That one's a little crazy.
Yeah, that seems a little nuts, but it's like the stuff we did speak on in the last podcast. Like, what is this person? What attributes are this person going to have? And it's kind of like what we were talking about. We want him to be pretty badass. He should be the hardest person to take out. Yes, I think an RPG is overkill. LMG or an LMG type of weapon, I see that being fair because if you're the last man standing and your team's getting taken out, like you need to be able to defend yourself besides just a pistol.
But that pistol is basically the most powerful pistol in the entire game.
Well, yeah, I mean.
But no, I do agree. The RPG is the one I think is a little crazy. But I mean, I have my preferred loadout. Like, my preferred loadout is I am always a mechanic and I wear armor insert and gas mask as my two gadgets is what I run. So that as the VIP, if I'm being the VIP, I automatically switch over to this preset loadout that I already have assigned for it, so that I have all of these extra benefits that they already put on this group, and then on top of that, I have armor inserts and I have gas masks, which means basically I am way more unstoppable than the average, because I've seen a few and they like to go recon, or they just pick whatever class they were when they go ahead and become the VIP. But I find that when you put in the armor insert and you put on the gas mask, you, as the VIP, are a lot less, like, you don't have to worry as much. So
yeah, that's a good way to go about it. I mean, because you stop yourself from you're increasing the damage on yourself. If you take, gas grenade damage, you take double damage, from my understanding.
Yes, and the armor insert negates half of a bolt action rifle damage to your chest.
That is important. Nothing like running a long lane and getting taken out. But let's kind of talk on your with all these game modes, right, that we've been talking about. Let's what is your favorite so far?
My absolute favorite's got to be Blood Money.
Damn it, that was going to be mine.
Well, all right.
But it's still mine.
Then we'll go with my close second. My close second is Heist. I like Blood Money. I like Heist.
Oh, it can be Blood Money. It's okay. We can both say it's Blood Money because it's a fun game mode.
Oh yeah. It's always just like a crazy, just cluster of craziness at the main cache file.
Yeah, it is. It's just, I love the tug of war aspect, the capture the flag. It's, in my mind, it's tug of war / capture the flag vibe that you get while you're playing this game mode.
Yes, I like that, and I like the fact that you can sneak around and literally set your enemy back by stealing money from them.
Yeah,
it's not like, oh, I'm going to kill enough tickets or I'm going to do enough to, do this. I mean, I've had games where the timer runs out. My team has 50. The last match I had 53 on my team. They had 52 on their team after the entire timer ran out. We beat them by 1 stack of cash after the entire timer went out, because that's how much tug of war, how many times I went to the enemy bank and stole, how many times my friends and my teammates helped me steal money from the bank while they were doing that to us, of course.
Yeah.
But it literally came down to the wire, and I've seen that there are custom servers starting to come out with Blood Money where they've increased the time limit or they've increased the money by ridiculous amounts. Like instead of the 150, I've seen a 500 stack. Like 500 is what you have to get in Blood Money. That takes forever, especially when you're stealing from each other the entire time.
Oh, I can only imagine the back and forth. But like some of the new levels, obviously we were talking about it. We're going to talk about. My favorite level so far is. I know it's going to be weird, but I like Grow House. The multiple game mode, even on multiple game modes. I think it's just it just works. You have a centralized building, which we talked about happens in a lot of game modes, and 2 main lower lanes and 2 main upper lanes if you count the rooftops. Also, there's a lot of things that go boom and then makes the level interesting. And then you can shoot the tanker in the rail yard, and then you can do stuff like kill people at the guard booth if you shoot the larger propane tank.
That level I find to be one of the most tasteful levels made. Like I like downtown and I like a few other maps, but I really just have like a soft spot for Grow House. I love the fact that you can go, like you have this basically 3 different worlds practically. In the bottom, you've got the outer ring, and then you have basically the rooftops and the central building kind of work as one because you're usually hopping from one and going into the other and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and you can actually, you can blow up some of the rooftop scaffolding to allow you to run up to the roof.
Yes, there's a overhang that you can pop to be able to get up there, so you're able to get in there easier.
Right, it's an overhang. That was the word I was looking for. It's an overhang.
Yeah, it's just like you have these 3 different worlds that all mesh very, very well because you have the main ring around the central warehouse, and that plays one way. You have in the bottom where all the weed is. You have that plays one way, but then the rest of it just complements everything to go with that.
Yeah, it's very balanced. It feels like you can flow and transition through the map very easily. Obviously, you have conflicts, and you know your areas not to go to that'll be giant kill boxes. But there's a lot of areas that you can maneuver that keep you safe as you go through it.
And that's because they have provided basically adequate cover in almost all of the lanes. Some are a little long, but because of the size of the map and because of the amount of cover, it allows you to, if you really need to, get to the other side of the map, there is those straight lanes that you can run, and you can run from one side to the other and hope nobody notices you and kills you for it. But if you need to move tactfully, you can move from cover to cover. You're going from the criminals to the police spawn. You need to go to your right side where the bus is and the loading docks to the warehouse that's to your right that marks you're out of bound. You go that way, and you sneak in behind the back, and you can get to the enemy cash pile and Blood Money, no problem. And I believe that that's a flag, actually, in Conquest. You just have to go over at that point.
I'm pretty sure if you're looking at the map overhead, it's C point furthest left, B is the middle building, and A is the furthest part right.
Yes. I just noticed that, like in Blood Money, that the farthest sides get kind of left, farthest right and farthest left get ignored a lot. So they make really good back rage because people are always like moving straight and forward, back and forth in the middle. And if you need that, you need a lane that you can go ahead and slink down so that you can get in behind the enemy and do your back rage. It has it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of good levels, let's speak of Hollywood Heights, which isn't a good level.
Hollywood Heights had so much potential. There's so many things that it had going for it that are kind of crazy.
I just want to touch on, look, who is the jerk that put a gigantic glass house near rolling hills? Who thought that was a good idea? And not only that, is like when you go in the house, I'd say like 65 to 70% of the walls can be blown up.
Oh yeah, you can just open the whole thing.
How does that work? Like if you're a designer, right? You say I'm gonna make all the walls blown up, then don't even have the walls, okay? Because
they want their gimmick. Look at our micro destruction.
That's not micro destruction. That's a gimmick. Take micro destruction out. It's a gimmick.
Well, It depends on how you use it. Micro-destruction in Bad Company 2 is perfectly fine. Micro-destruction on Holloway Heights is kind of a gimmick.
But this is what we're talking about. We're talking about, things that don't work. Look how many angles you can be hit from while you're in the center of that house.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I avoid the center of that house like a plague.
Yeah, and I think most people do. Like, they just go upstairs. They try to, sit on the roof. And the roof has more cover than the frickin' middle of the house. At least, excuse me, to make this politically correct, the second floor of the middle of the house.
Well, that depends on if somebody's levolutioned it or not. If you
that's true.
do the levolution and you open the entire front of that building,
the back. You open the back.
Well, yes, sorry, the back, the pull side. When you open that entire thing, basically it allows you super easy to either sit in there or to shoot into there with long range weapons, because there's nothing to hide behind once that levolution goes off.
Yeah, it's a rough level to play. I mean, the angles that you can get hit from in that building alone, and the tough thing about that is that that's a central point, right? You're safer on the bottom level, because the bottom level has like all the structured materials, or it looks that way at least, concrete walls and thick outside walls on the bottom. It looks like a bunch of plywood as you go to the middle level, at least inside it does. And then it just looks bad, when you're in it and you're trying to, because by the time you play it and you're 10 minutes in, all the walls are blown out by either gunfire, grenade throws, or what have you. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen, but I'm saying try to plan rooms that people are going to be going through. Allow them to have good experiences while they're in those rooms. They shouldn't be able to camp them, but they should be able to use them.
I completely agree.
Okay, everyone, we're going to wrap things up here. We will pick up our conversation in part 2 of this podcast. Again, my name is THB, and I'd like to thank Ansem for contributing to the podcast. If you liked the conversation or just want to contribute your 2 cents about specific subjects, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast and continue to listen to us as the first season goes on. Part 2 of this episode will shortly be out after this one. We will see you soon.
Have a good one, guys.